Welcome to a panel on nature and community. We're having a little bit of technical stuff related to some of the slides, but our first speaker was not going to do slides, so we're going to go ahead and get started so we can keep on schedule. And our first speaker will be Molly Aronowitz, did I pronounce that correctly, with People's Company. She's going to help us learn about Middlebrook Farm and agrihood and touch on communications around nature in an agricultural context. Our next speaker will be Mike Delaney, who sparked a community via Zoom with nature advocacy as its reason for existence. Then Brenda Mainwaring will speak to community enrichment offered at the Natural Resources at Hitchcock. And then Luke Hoffman will look at community building and advocacy through the lens of Iowa Rivers Revival's Rivertown program. I know some of you know Luke is now with the Iowa Bicycle Coalition, but he's really wearing two hats. So this hat today is the Iowa Rivers Revival hat. Fair enough, wherever you go. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that Molly can get started by handing off a mic, and then we'll hopefully have our technical issues figured out by the time Mike gets up there.
Good afternoon. I'm Molly Aronowitz. I am a farm manager, about 10 years with People's Company, and I also oversee our sustainability efforts. People's Company is a private firm based in Des Moines, and we work in farmland brokerage, management, appraisal, really anything about farmland, we try to insert ourselves. Prior to People's Company, I spent about 10 years working in public gardens, and really what that was cultivating public spaces and then turning around and looking at my audience and saying, hey, this is why this is cool, this is why this matters, and this is your connection. And really, that's what we need to bring back to the same approach to the working landscape. And my easiest way to evoke awe, to connect, is to make that connection back to nature and connect back to meaningful and local community. Middlebrook Farm is a lovely example of the intersection between nature and community. It's a People's Company sponsored development project just east of I-35 in Cumming, just south of Des Moines. As a different approach to urban sprawl, it combines mixed residential housing with farming, public garden space, and outdoor recreation use. And what I like to think of it is like a golf course with houses around it, but instead of that golf course, we have a working farm, public gardens, and just general outdoor recreational space to be used by the public. Now the full plan will take about 10 years to be developed. Today, you can visit Middlebrook. You can stop by the Mercantile, which is a 100-year-old schoolhouse restored. You can grab a coffee there. You can stop after work for happy hour. They have live music often. You can also, in the summer months, stop by the activity lawn for Fridays on the Farm, which is really just a lovely combination of a farmer's market, grabbing a drink, listening to live music, and open to the public. In 2024, what we're excited about is Wilson's Orchard coming to Middlebrook. There'll be the Orchard, a restaurant, and a cider pub. We'll also see the Meadow come to life, a 50-acre nature preserve with walking trails, a pond, and grazing incorporated. I encourage, let's go. But please visit middlebrookfarm.com if you're interested in the calendar of events and just ongoing updates about that development and new additions coming just to that great example of nature and community working together. Now in my day-to-day work, I'm more likely to be wearing jeans and work boots and my Carhartt vest out at a field gate talking with a farmer. And it can be, more challenging to slide in that idea of awe in nature as we're talking about maximizing yield and precision planting and triple stacked hybrids and the data of farming. But if I listen closely And if I keep it local, which seems to be a theme of today's comments, I can find opportunities to connect. So every chance I get, I use the term working landscape, and I try to connect bigger than just the field that we're standing in. I talk about the watershed, I talk about the neighborhood. And I don't start talking about habitat and diversity. If a farmer gets excited about seeing pheasants in the field or a mama fox and babies, I get excited too, and I say, gosh, it's so good to see pheasants again on a farm. I wish we could see more of those. And then we slide into the idea of a conversation about habitat and diversity. I talk about water movement over time, not erosion. I look at Iowa DNR historical maps that anyone can pull offline, those decade photos. I look at those with a farmer or a landowner, and I comment how the water seems to be moving over time on that farm. We often talk about how water moves where it's going to move without us being involved. And then I say, would it help to put a waterway right there where we can see that water's been moving for decades? Would it help to seed that down? So backing into this idea of conservation by addressing the economic or just the general farming ease first. I also think about how to bring community and that local connection to the non-farming landowner. I love absentee landowners. The ones that seek me out are usually already have a sustainability bent, and they just need help with getting the conservation implemented. They don't have that local peer pressure to do things how we've always done things. And so every chance I get, I pull absentee landowners back to their farm and make that connection back to the local community. I ask them to be the agent of change in that local neighborhood. So like for an example of this week, I talked to a landowner from California, and she wanted to reduce tillage on her farm and incorporate cover crops. But because she lives in California, there's no peer pressure about what are the neighbors doing or what will the neighbors say. And if it happens to not work with the farmer that's on the farm, that he chooses not to implement those conservation practices, we don't have the stress of her seeing that farmer at the local grocery store or having that uncomfortable interaction locally. We can move on and either work well with the current tenant, or we can find a farmer that's more open to implementing those conservation practices. She has the fresh perspective to see what needs to be done, and then we can do it. And with the current tenant, what an opportunity to send a ripple of positive change through that community. And with that in mind, I just want to make a quick plug. A lot of my work I do, I partner with Practical Farmers of Iowa, and the landowner coaching program is something that I'm excited about right now. It's one-on-one coaching for non-farming landowners, free to non-farming landowners, where we meet one-on-one and just help figure out the next best steps on their farm, getting them back engaged in that community and the farm. Anyone can find more information about that on the Practical Farmers of Iowa website, looking at the landowner coaching program.
The reason I'm up here is because Neil Hamilton was reading a book about William O. Douglas. And Douglas was a very serious conservationist with a lot of power and a lot of influence. He knew a lot of people. And he decided to create what he called a committee of correspondence. So he just contacted people he knew and suggested that they write and talk to people and try to become influencers. That's the term for the day, I think, influencers. And Neil said to me, since he's part of a committee of correspondence, I call them the elders, most of us, accept that appellation, but we've got a few people who'd rather be called Sparks, because they're a little bit younger than me and a few of the others. But Neil saw a similarity between just this group, this non-group, and what William Douglas had put together in his Committee of Correspondence. So, should I wait or should I just keep rolling? I'm almost done. Okay, I'll start at the beginning. I was born in 1946. So, you can, don't have to do the math. I'm 77 years old. And my father was a fisherman who couldn't get enough of it. So he bought a piece of land and built a cottage on a beautiful lake in northeastern Indiana that's a glacial lake. My brothers and I fished, walked the shorelines at night, caught turtles and snakes and walked in the woods, and it was really pretty pristine. And I really, as a kid, I really didn't appreciate the quality of that water and that environment as I do now. I mean, it's a spring-fed, clear, beautiful glacial lake in northeastern Indiana. So I bring that up because it's like, okay, why am I a tree hugger? You know, why am I an environmental wacko? It has to do with my dad and growing up. A lot of you probably had those outdoor experiences. Jim is nodding his head, you know, on the river, in the woods, out in the field. You know, we have to get our kids out in nature if we want them to care about what we care about, obviously. I joined the Boy Scouts because my older brother had a wonderful scoutmaster, and he was serious about scouting. We really actually had to learn everything, all the knots and fire starting and cooking and all that. He also loved to canoe, and being close to some of the best canoeing in the country in Michigan, we made canoe trips up to the Pine River or Pierre Marquette. I remember drinking water directly out of the Pierre Marquette River. We weren't concerned of giardia and that kind of thing at the time. I don't remember getting sick. I was in the Peace Corps. I taught sociology at the community college, and then my family, my wife and I bought some land in Dallas County, and the Raccoon River ran through that little farm, that's 60 acres. So I had very little idea of what, this was going to develop into at the time. I just wanted a place where I could paddle down to it and camp on the bank. Turns out we built a cabin, and I've got 20 acres of prairie. It's just been wonderful to do what I could to enhance the quality of that ecosystem, which includes, I own the river bottom, according to Iowa law, and the bank, and the sandbars, and the floodplain, and the terrace, the fan, where I put the prairie, and the uplands with all these wonderful oaks. And so, for me, it's just like, why wouldn't every landowner in Iowa devote a piece of that property to restoration to the way it used to be, because it's so cool. The insects love that prairie. The wildlife is wonderful. I have friends out for pancakes. We sit on the deck, talk about birds, and have a wonderful time enjoying the outdoors in central Iowa. So I care a lot about Mother Nature. We are getting along fine. She just does me all kinds of favors out there. It's just every day it's a wonderful experience. I could go on and on, couldn't I? Somebody better watch me. Pat's job. So during COVID, I had some really functional Zoom meetings. They're really productive, sitting in my desk, with my notes and, on the screen. So I thought to myself, this is a nice technology. I think I'll invite some of the conservationists that I've met over the past 17 years of working in conservation and see if they want to sit around and talk about some of the problems we face. And I've met some wonderful conservationists over these years, lobbying, running around with Sierra Club people and hikes and all that. So I invited these people together, and we had a great conversation. I said, you want to get together next week? And they all came back. And about 10 of them are in the room here today. And they kept coming back. So it's been over 2 years. We're in our third year of meeting every Monday at 9 o'clock. And we talk about serious stuff. pipelines, Bloody Run, manure spills in Greene County. We bring in guests when we feel we don't have the expertise that we need, and it's been fun. We normally have 19 or 20 people on that call every Monday. So we are a committee of correspondence. We have no officers, no dues, no bylaws. We are a non-group, and we love it that way because we're not a target. What could anybody do to us? We're like that correspondence group. We're below the radar, and we share information. Every one of these people is influential. Every one of your organizations is tied into this group one way or another. It's a tremendous network of people that's trying to make a difference. And on some of these big issues, this non-group has had an impact. So the point of all is to share that idea with our young people. The opposition to what we want is wealthy, powerful, and extremely well organized. Our opponents they think they're invincible. Our young people know how to use new media. It wouldn't be hard to create committees of correspondence at the college level, or even high school level. I mean, look at Rumberg. And work to share information and try to move the needle when it comes to the people who make the policy at all levels, from our school boards all the way up to the federal level. That's what I think we have to do. Neil is about trying to get people to work together. And what we found with the help of Zoom is that we can share a lot of information, generate quite a bit of power in just this informal kind of a way. So you wanted me to share that with you. I hope, Neil, I did what you wanted me to do.
You were perfect, Mike. Let's give Mike a round of applause. And our technology problems are not going to go away unless we do a reboot of the system that includes the microphones. So for 5 minutes, have fun at your tables and maybe think about some great, challenging questions to ask about nature and community. We'll resume in about 5 minutes.
A beautiful day, yes, exactly. It's actually kind of liberating to be free from your slides, but this way you get to see beautiful pictures of Hitchcock Nature Center. So, I'm Brenda Mainwaring. I'm the CEO and president of the Iowa West Foundation. Iowa West Foundation is based in Council Bluffs, and we're one of the largest private foundations in Iowa. Since we were created in the mid-1990s, we've distributed more than $500 million in Southwest Iowa. So where does that largesse come from? Well, it comes from gaming. Iowa is the only state in the country that, when it decided it would allow gambling, decided it also wanted to make sure that revenue from gaming was returned to the community. So everybody in this room has an entity that receives gaming entity that receives gaming revenue that is available to you in your communities. Maybe not $500 million, but we serve 14 counties. We serve 14 counties in Southwest Iowa. We predominantly serve Council Bluffs, then Potawatomi County, then the other 14 counties. For the topic of nature and community, I could sum this up in really one sentence, but I could. And the key point is, if you want to engage your community, you actually have to talk to them. And that can be very scary because sometimes you aren't sure that you want to know what they have to say because you're not sure that you're on the same page as your community. So in 2022, I got back to Council Bluffs in this position in September of 2020, and in 2022, after a little bit of work, we went out to the community, and we held listening sessions, but we called them Imagine Hours because we didn't listening sessions is boring, right? So we said we're going to have this series of Imagine Hours, and we were nervous. We We thought we would get stuck in a pothole chain about people complaining about potholes. So we had this idea about how to engage differently. And we handed everybody who walked in the door a postcard that said, what do you love about your community? And they told us amazing things. We got more than 2,000 answers. Now, it helped write the postcard with the drink card. They tended to fill it out and hand it back. But what we heard about what they love is that they love our natural areas and that they want more. And that's why we partner with our county conservation, with Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, with Golden Hills, with Wabash Trace, with all of the organizations that serve that need that the community wants, because that is our purpose. I was looking at the agenda. I think I'm probably one of the only funders in the room. So part of what I'm going to talk about is what funders want to see. If you read my bio at all, you see that I have a personal and lengthy commitment to conservation, but it's not my money. So I have to represent the interest of the community, not just mine. Happily, they coincide. So Hitchcock is where I'm going to focus because it's the largest natural area in our region. And with proximity to Omaha, it's certainly the most visited. In fact, just last week they got an award from Omaha. From Omaha by Design. It's called the Laurels Award for the Annual Environment and Open Spaces Award. But the other reason I'm going to talk about Hitchcock is because they represent conflict right now. So Hitchcock started in the 1960s as a YMCA camp. It was a YMCA camp until the 1980s, when the 300-acre camp was sold to a private developer who had an amazing idea to turn it into a trash dump. It's right above the railroad track, and they were going to ship trash in from all over the country and dump it into what would have previously been the Les Hills. That was the start of community engagement. Because that had to be approved. That had to be approved by the zoning board by one vote. One vote. The zoning board said no. And they did that because the community told them no. So then in 1991, 500 acres was put up at a sheriff's auction. And again, the community said, this is important. It needs to be protected. So the county purchased the property at that auction. Neither of those things would have happened if the community had not been engaged and if the county had not been listening to what they wanted. So Hitchcock is in the Les Hills. It's a map of sort of the region. You can see the green area is Hitchcock, and then it's sort of brought out. You can see the specific areas. It's grown to nearly 1,500 acres. That has happened through persistence and patience and the diligence of a conservation team that is willing to play the long game. And it also is because of the courage of county elected officials. So Iowa West Foundation has been part of the effort pretty much from the beginning. From 1997 to 2021, we have allocated $2.7 million to Hitchcock for acquisition, infrastructure, and amenities. And almost $2 million of that has been since 2019. And we've done it because our communities, the people we serve, the people who are recipients of the funds we hold, understand the importance of natural areas to their sustainability, their small town and medium-sized town sustainability. Trust your communities to understand economic development, well-being, tourism, like we heard about today. So at Hitchcock, the conservation team understood from the very beginning what Hitchcock actually could be and what it should be. And so with patience, a lot of patience, and a lot of conversations over probably weak coffee, they developed relationships with all of the adjacent landowners. They communicated with the plan, with us, with the primary funder, and with the county well enough in advance that we could actually budget and plan along with them. And as Hitchcock grew, really their regional importance grew as well. It is well known as the best place to hike in the Omaha metro area. They've added camping and accessible trails. They have a brand new pavilion from wood that's grown on site. Always keeping conservation at the forefront, but always paying attention to what the community wants in their natural areas. So serving the conservation needs along with the interest of the community. The story got a little bit more interesting recently during COVID. Like all of you who manage natural resources, COVID brought people out in droves. People didn't know where else to go. They were looking for entertainment and they didn't have a lot of choices. And they rediscovered nature. But that rediscovery, while wonderful, was also really taxing to our natural areas. About the same time, a long and a very ambitious and long-held dream became possible when the Mount Crescent ski hills became available. It's strange that you're going to buy a ski area, but it's very important conservation land as well. So Iowa West provided $1.5 million to that. The county matched it with another $1.5 million. And this kind of gift and this kind of opportunity only happens when several factors come together. The first is there's a proven need. The community wants it. Mount Crescent was never particularly successful, but we knew the community wanted that property and Hitchcock to be successful. We, as a donor, have to have a trusted partner who has demonstrated that they know how to get things done and they have the will and the integrity and the energy to make it happen. And for us, there has to be a financial match. And in this case, the county dedicated $1.5 million in ARPA funds. They're one of the few, maybe the only counties who decided to go out and buy a ski hills with their ARPA funds, and it was not universally received as the best possible way to spend those funds. It has the decision of the county commissioners to do that. Again, reflects a lot of political courage. It happened pretty quickly. The fallout has been pretty substantial. Essentially, the opposition was able to mount an effort to give a recall election of sorts. We had to hold a local county election to try to change the way elections were held. It failed. There was development of very organized opposition, mainly on both sides, people who thought the money should have been spent differently. It kind of awoke that sleeping giant. Hitchcock had done a really good job of organizing themselves to acquire land quietly, and all of a sudden it wasn't quiet. And two supervisors didn't come back after that election. But the interesting part, I'm getting a sign from Pat here, so I'll be real quick. What Hitchcock staff said would happen is exactly what happened. 120% of the operating costs were covered by Nebraska revenue alone. So the facts were not enough. These are the facts. And the county has done an exceptionally good job of getting them out there. They've used all of the tools at their disposal, media tools. Facts do not necessarily put an end to opposition, but what it does do is allow your community who already supports you to be on your side and to really take an active role. And the other thing I would say, before Pat throws me off, kind of following up on what Dr. Ruby said, stop bashing DNR. Stop bashing your elected officials as a knee-jerk reaction. Your elected officials are the ones who can take action. We step in as a donor so that we can take that heat sometimes, because I don't have to get elected. I can take the heat. And if we can do that and give the elected officials the room to make good choices, then that's the best possible outcome for everybody. Thanks.
How's everybody doing? If you are an Iowa Rivers Revival board member, would you please stand at this time and be recognized? I'm looking at Robin Fortney. I'm looking at Dan. If you are past Iowa Rivers Revival board member, would you please stand and be recognized? Or board advisory member. I see Mark Ackelson as well. Hello, sir. Yes, keep standing. If you are somebody who has been a donor to Iowa Rivers Revival, would you please stand and be recognized? If you're somebody who cares about clean water, would you please stand and recognize these amazing individuals with us? Thank you so much for your dedication to our organization and to our mission protecting and restoring Iowa's rivers and streams. We could not do it without you. I also want to recognize the Green Iowa AmeriCorps folks who dedicated their summer to cleaning up over 33,000 pounds of trash in one summer this year. Would you also be standing to be recognized? Katie. Yes, both of you. Thank you so much for your dedication to clean water. That's what our organization is about. I'm Luke Hoffman. I'm the outgoing executive director for Iowa Rivers Revival. I'm the incoming executive director for the Iowa Bicycle Coalition. And I'm here for one reason, and that's trails, trails, trails. And I want to talk to you today about one story that I have to tell. And that story is about Robin, who is a founding member of Iowa Rivers Revival. And I think it is of the utmost importance to thank people. I think it is the most underrated thing that an organization or a person can do in this world, which is give heartfelt gratitude. I think way too often we perform it in a perfunctory fashion, where we thank people, we send them an acknowledgement letter, maybe we write a little note on there. But what about deep, heartfelt gratitude that moves somebody to tears? That is what moved me when hearing Robin's story. And that is why I'm going to show you this video today. This video is part of our Rivertown of the Year Award program, which has for the past 20 years recognized an Iowa town or city that has significantly invested in water and water quality, in connecting its citizens to water, in river restoration, stream bank stabilization, and anything that has to do with getting people outside. And I was extremely impressed with the conversation that I had on the phone with Robin, to the point where I was moved to tears. And I think we have to all be asking ourselves right here, right now, what is it that will move you? Because if you are not moved, how can you move or influence anyone else? Allow yourself to be moved. That is the message that I'm here with you today. And that all comes back to sharing stories like Robin's. So, as I tear up a little bit myself because I'm thinking about our conversation, I'm going to show Robin's video and step away.
I'm Robin Fortney, founding member of Iowa River Survival, a biologist by training. Ever since I was a little kid, you asked me to do anything, I'm going to be outside. I'm curious, and I'm a bit of an adventurer. I like to see new things. I like to go to new places. With rivers, especially Iowa rivers, they're very meandering, and so every turn is a mystery. You learn as you go, you see as you go, you have to pay attention. And then I realized, people say they want information about rivers, but I just want to paddle. So I started leading paddle trips. The other thing that had happened to me is my husband had died several years before, and to have the need to focus right in front of the boat, so I wouldn't crash into anything, that allowed me to be present in the moment and enjoy the place and the experience and the physicality. It was exciting. It was wild. It was as wild as Iowa gets. Every river in this state is fabulous to paddle. There's a lot of wildlife connected with those streams. They're like where life is. All of our roads take us over bridges, and we can't really see the rivers very well, so we don't think about them. I just found that when I started to get into rivers, to paddle on rivers, it was like this new world of awareness. I was part of the initial group that dreamed Iowa Rivers Revival into being. There was a conversation with people who care about Iowa rivers, and we decided that someone needed to be the voice for Iowa rivers. And so the group was formed to be that voice. The mission of Iowa Rivers Revival is to advocate for rivers, to steward them, to help people enjoy them. We want to go to communities that have dams that need to be either removed or mitigated in some way to allow rivers to flow free. And the reason that's important is because those rivers are healthier if they're free-flowing. A service squad is basically what it is. You're a group of people that have a project to do, to clean up a river. There may be other things around that, banks and parks or whatever, but you're doing something important. Stewardship means taking care of something, investing in it physically, monetarily. There's lots of ways to do that. But, if we value something and we steward it, then we keep it going, we keep it alive. Almost from the beginning of the organization, we decided to highlight towns that were river towns, towns that were embracing their waterfronts, shine a light on what they were doing, and finding out, what new actions they were taking to try to get people to the river, because, rivers were sort of an industrial powering resource. And so industry grew up around water. Towns sort of turned their back on rivers. We've seen that again and again. Plus people, islands, have been trying to find ways to keep younger generations in town. I'm pleased to say that Dyersville is our 2023 River Town of the Year, and they actually have several streams going through their town. They've been very engaged with those streams. There's been a number of issues that they've been trying to deal with, and improvements that they've made to river restoration kinds of work. They've had an issue with some toxic sites. They got that cleaned up so that the town can use that land differently and develop it. I like to see that sort of thing before I arrive with an award. With the River Town of the Year award, we're kind of recognizing some of these changes.
With our restoration program that we've been able to go through. And we have nice, clean, clear water, and that's very important. If your kids are going to go down here and fish and spend some time wading and catching crawdads and minnows and things like that, we want good quality water for their kids to play in. What's good for Dyersville is good for Dubuque County and ultimately the whole state of Iowa. That's my take. We're very fortunate to have the forward thinkers that we have. Our council is amazing in the green space, and that really helped develop our West Side Park down there. The water quality is amazing right now with our restoration program that we've been able to go through. And we have nice, clean, clear water, and that's very important. If your kids are going to go down here and fish and spend some time wading and catching crawdads and minnows and things like that, we want good quality water for their kids to play in. What's good for Dyersville is good for Dubuque County and ultimately the whole state of Iowa. That's my take. We're very fortunate to have the forward thinkers that we have. Our council is amazing. Our city staff works together. Residents of Dyersville is extremely proud of our community, and that helps too. That's quite an honor to get that award. I mean, the River Town of the Year is an amazing opportunity to showcase Dyersville once again. I think this is just the foundation of what we can build on our river. But we have to start someplace, and with the grants that we received and the award that we're so lucky to receive, it is certainly going to help build that.
Well, you can use that to your best advantage because it's a wonderful, you're in a great club now.
Oh, well, we're honored to be in that club, I'll tell you that. Thank you so much. All right,
we'll see
very
you
good.
on the award day.
All right.
How about that? That is what building community looks like. And the point that was made earlier, it's about celebrating our elected leaders and giving them space to make decisions that can significantly improve our community, and working with them and supporting them in that effort to have as large of a tent and a coalition as possible and working together. I think that's so significant. But I want to just again recognize Robin Fortney for your nearly 2 decades of leadership. Thank you, Robin, from the bottom of my heart. We could not do it without you. Thank you. To put that all together, it took significant volunteer time and energy. It took significant investment, but it was well worth it every step of the way. We followed Robin on her journey to Dyersville. This was after a board committee of ours, the River Town of the Year Award Committee, which has operated for nearly 20 years, recognizing every year that River Town of the Year. And we, vetted 5 different applicants, and these are 20-page applications. These are volunteer board members who are going through this and deliberating and making critical choices. And it was really, really close. And I think that competitive process resulted in something that was really well worth everybody's time. And I think the program's really impactful. 2 weeks before the event, we actually didn't have anybody registered, and then that video dropped, and we had 100 people show up. And that was in Dyersville, Iowa. We had members of every member of the city council. The mayor was there to receive the award. We had state senators and representatives, and a member of Joni Ernst's office showed up because she saw the video shared to her by a colleague. That is the power of actually sharing a positive story with a message about how we can partner to improve our community. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
What questions do we have for our community and nature panel?
I've got a question for Brenda. Are the other foundations funded with gaming money as active in the nature arena as you are, and have your work inspired them?
all of the other gaming QSOs throughout the state have their own mission and purpose. A lot of them are very focused on education, but they all have open application periods, and their statutory mission is to serve the interest of the community. So if you are a conservation organization and you have not talked to them, don't just throw in an application without talking to them. Pick up the phone, go visit them, talk about your project, find out how you can coordinate it such that it matches with their interest and their ability to fund it, and I think you can get a good outcome.
I've got a question for you. We talked about Hitchcock, and we've got this Agri-Hood, and all these beautiful river spaces. When you don't feel as though that your community has a natural space, how can nature play a role in community building? This will teach you. You'll ask your own questions next.
How could a community not have a natural space? You know, we might have some areas where you've got asphalt, concrete, etc. But there's always the earth. And I'm really into prairie restoration. There's still some seeds left. If anybody wants to start a little prairie, I've got seeds on the Isaac Walton League table. And the Des Moines Isaac Walton League board has given me permission to start a prairie right in the front of their building on George Flagg. And this state was covered with prairie. So all of our towns, are built on prairie. So what our little education group talked about, Pat, was promoting prairie plantings in our schools. Mark Dorhout is here. He knows all about it out in Panora. He takes his kids out in the prairie once or twice a week, right through the winter, and teaches biology lessons of all types in relationship with that prairie. So that's my thought. Every community's got the opportunity to take a piece of ground and do the best they can to restore it and make it a haven for wildlife and a place for education.
You're absolutely right. This is Iowa. We all have green space. Not everybody knows that. Why do they not know it? Molly said she didn't talk to a farmer about fox kits and nesting areas unless they talked to her first. Meet them where they are. I started out by saying you have to talk to your community. If they don't know that you're there, find out why they don't know that you're there. And use your youth volunteers to get into social media, because if you're not on social media, you're not present.
I just wanted to thank you all. Many of you that know me or have talked to me about kind of community and conservation, you'll often hear me say that we need to make a shift with the people that I like to call conservation curious. And I think that shift of people who are curious about conservation, maybe they recycle, but they don't feel comfortable yet fully diving into being able to call themselves a conservationist, is going to happen exactly what you said, Brenda, where they are already at, meeting where they already are at, and working within the communities and developing spaces and places and creating a place that they're comfortable with that introduces them into nature is when and how we are going to grow this tent and build more advocates. So I guess this isn't so much a question as much as it is a thank you to you all for continuing to do that work, to taking that political heat and doing what you know it's right, reaching out and having those hard conversations or those brainstorming conversations and getting into communities and seeing where they are doing it right and celebrating them and shining a spotlight on them so others feel comfortable in exploring that opportunity too. So thank you all.
I know there's been a lot of talk about youth kind of all day today, and as a high school student, I just wanted a little bit of your advice. I would love to get more involved in this type of thing. I feel like a lot of youth, and especially personally, I don't know how. Do you have any advice on how I can start something, how I can get on social media and do this stuff, how I can get more involved, how I can get other youth involved?
Great question. Take it away.
Thank you for being here, because if you're not engaged, we're all wasting our time. So thank you for your desire to be engaged. Be bold. If you want to be involved, go talk to the people, go to the organization you want to be involved with. They will be thrilled to have you there. Be open-minded to understand that what they need to do may not make sense to you at first. Be collaborative. Figure out how you can find common ground between what they think they need and what you think they need, because there's got to be common ground, and that's a good starting point.
And I would just add, seek a mentor. Find someone who you'd like to learn from and in their career, and find opportunities to connect with them.
And I'm betting this is a room full of mentors.
Yes.
Luke, did you want to comment?
Sure, yeah, I would just second the mentorship. I think in my personal experience, I was very lucky to have a series of really, really phenomenal mentors at different stages in my personal life and in my professional career. And so I would just encourage you to seek out the mentor who looks like the person that you want to be professionally and personally. I think that's really, really important. And then I would surround yourself with people who have that same desire, who share that same passion to be engaged, to be involved, and trust me, you will find things that you can be engaged with and passionate about.
And just when we think about nature and community, what we really heard here today is that nature plays a role in creating community, in building community, and celebrating community. So those are really powerful things to think about in terms of making nature and community connections. Let's give our panel a big round of applause.